Sometimes we believe that we must face everything alone. We convince ourselves that asking for help is a weakness, that strong people never lean on others. But what if this mindset itself becomes the biggest barrier between us and our dreams? What if the very thing we refuse to do is the one thing that could move us forward? Today's story is about a young man named David, someone who believed he had to carry the entire weight of his dreams on his own shoulders. Along the way, he discovered his limits and learned a powerful truth. Asking for help does not mean you failed. It simply means you are human, and sometimes it is the smartest step toward success. Stay with this story until the end, because the lesson might change how you look at your own struggles. Long ago, in a quiet village surrounded by green fields, uneven paths, and rocky roads, lived a young man named David. The village was small, and most of the people there survived by farming the land. Life moved slowly, but it was never easy. Challenges were part of everyday living. David was only 23 years old, and he worked as a carpenter. He had learned the skill from his father, who had passed away years earlier. The workshop David owned was small and old, with a roof that leaked during the rain and walls that creaked with age. Every morning, David opened his shop before sunrise. He worked alone, cutting wood, sanding surfaces, fixing broken tables, and building chairs. Customers often argued over prices, trying to pay less for his hard work. By the end of the day, after hours of physical labor, David earned barely enough to afford simple meals, firewood, and basic necessities for himself and his mother. Winter made things even harder, yet deep inside, David was not content with merely surviving at night when the village fell quiet. He would sit by a small window and stare at the distant hills. In his heart, a dream burned bright. He imagined owning a large furniture store one day, a place where people from faraway towns would come to buy his work. He believed that his hands could build something greater than his current life, but reality never made things easy. Every time David tried to save money, something unexpected happened. A tool would break, the shop roof would leak again, or his mother would need medicine. No matter how hard he worked, progress felt painfully slow. Some villagers mocked his ambition. One farmer laughed and said, "You can barely afford good wood, and you dream of owning a big store?" Those words wounded David deeply, but he never allowed them to kill his dream. One cold morning, an elderly traveler named Mr. Aziz stopped by David's shop. He was a merchant known for his experience and wisdom. After examining David's work, he placed a large order, a dining table that had to be finished within 1 week. The payment was generous, more than David had ever earned from a single job. It felt like an opportunity sent by fate. David worked with determination, but trouble soon followed. Halfway through the project, he ran out of wood. When he went to the supplier, he discovered that winter demand had doubled the prices. The money he had could only buy half of what he needed. David refused to ask Mr. Aziz for extra payment. He felt it would make him look weak. He tried borrowing money from a man named Wed, but Wed only laughed and turned him away. That night, David sat alone on an old bench in his shop, staring at the few coins left on the table. Doubt filled his mind. Was he chasing an impossible dream? Was he being foolish for wanting more? Then he remembered his mother's gentle words from long ago. Every great thing begins with a small step. Never be afraid to begin, no matter how difficult the road seems. The next morning, with renewed courage, David traveled to the city. He carried with him a few folding chairs he had made, hoping to sell them. It was a risky decision. If he failed, he wouldn't even have enough money to return home. He set up a small stall in a busy market corner. Hours passed without a single customer stopping. Just when hope began to fade, a wealthy woman noticed his craftsmanship. Impressed by the quality, she bought all the chairs. With the money he earned, David purchased the wood he needed and returned to the village. He completed the dining table on time. Mr. Aziz was deeply impressed and praised David's talent, encouraging him to never abandon his dream. Soon after, word of David's skills spread. Orders began arriving from nearby towns. Then came the biggest opportunity yet. A businessman from the city placed an order for 10 dining tables to be delivered within 1 month, offering a large payment. The task seemed overwhelming. David had no workers, limited tools, and a tiny workshop. Still, he accepted the challenge. To afford the materials, David made a painful sacrifice. He sold his late father's gold watch, the last memory he had left of him. Tears filled his eyes as he handed it over, but he believed sacrifices were necessary for success. He worked endlessly, skipping meals and sleeping only a few hours each night. His body weakened. His hands cracked, and exhaustion consumed him. When one table repeatedly broke due to a flaw in the wood, David finally broke down. His mother found him sitting silently, defeated. She reminded him gently that health mattered more than any dream. She told him that life was not meant to be carried alone, and that asking for help was not weakness, but wisdom. For the first time, David listened. The next day, he asked the villagers for help. To his surprise, they all stepped forward. Together, they completed the order. The businessman was satisfied and paid David as promised. With that success, David expanded his shop, hired workers, and built a better life. But the most valuable thing he gained was the lesson that no dream is achieved alone. Sometimes, the strongest step forward is reaching out for help,